All right, so here is our last video for page 77. What I'm going to quickly do right now is, my suggestion is, what I would prefer for you to do is go ahead and try this problem and this problem. And when you're done with this problem, here are your final factors in zero. So pause it, check it, see how it went. And then the next one, here are your final factors in zeros. So that's your goal of what to get to. If you don't get to those answers, then you should watch the video, or you just watch the video from the beginning. So the first thing I'm going to do is, it says find the x-intercepts. Remember, that's just another way to say solving and finding the zeros. So finding the x-intercepts, again, is just what values, if I put them in for x, will make y be 0. So we're just setting this equal to 0. Since they don't give me any clue, the first thing I would try to do is factor it. So since there is no GCF and there's 4 terms, I would group them up, and I would GCF this one with x squared and then get x plus 7. And then when I need my twinsy parentheses and I need x plus 7 here, hopefully you can see that there is not a GCF I can take out of this to be left with x plus 7. So since it's not factorable, I'm going to come up with my list of numbers to test. And so I'm going to take the factors of 40. There's quite a list of them. Oops. I'll put them in numerical order. And 40. And then I want to take the factors of the leading coefficients, so 1. And now I'm going to make all my possible solutions. And so just a reminder that these will all be your numerator. This will be your denominator. So putting these over 1 essentially just repeats these. So all the possible numbers I would try are these. So I'm going to list them once more just to keep my work the same. And if I didn't have my graphing calculator, I would now have to start this whole synthetic division process and see, does 1 work? Does -1 work? Does 2? Does -2, 4, -4? And remember, I know it works when I get 0 at the end. So to save myself a little bit of time, I'm going to go to my graphing calculator and I'm going to put in this equation. So that is something I'm doing right now. I'm under the y equals button. Let me make this so you can see this a little better. Okay, so x cubed, that's not right, plus 7x squared plus 2x minus 40, not -40, minus 40. And then I'm going to go to my table, so second graph, and I'm just going to start putting in the numbers. So there's 1, there's -1, there's 2, and look, 2 works. I get 0. I'm not even going to bother putting in the others because 2 works. So I'll put 2 here, and then I'm going to take the numbers 1, 7, 2, and -40. 1, 7, -2, and 40. And now I'm going to start my process. So I'm going to bring the 1 down first. 1 times 2 is 2. Add these up. Now 9 times 2 is 18. Let's see, where am I messing up? Oh, it's not a -2. My apologies. It's a +2. That's going to be 20. It's a -40. And then 20 times 2 is 40. Add those up and I get 0. So it worked as it should. And remember, this is the remainder. Don't care about that. The remainder says this is working. This is my constant. This is my x. And this is my x squared. So I'm going to come over here. And I'm going to try to factor it. And if I can't factor it, remember I got my quadratic formula. But I need factors of 20 that make 9. And it does work because I can use 4 and 5. And now I'm going to make my factors or my parentheses. And I'll put my x's in there. And remember, x times x is x squared, so this is going to work. Make my face. And now these are both x, so I'll let this x times a +4 make 4x. And I'll let this x times a +5 make this 5x. And now I can set my factors equal to 0. And in both situations, I'd subtract the value over to the other side, so I get -5 and -4. So going back to what I did before, over here, what are my final zeros? What are the factors that got me there? And remember, we're supposed to have 3 answers. So here's one answer. The factor that got me there is x plus 4. Here's my other answer. The factor that got me there is x plus 5. And don't forget the third answer of 2. And you have to make the factor that gets you there. Let's see. So one thing I didn't talk about, I don't have to start with 2. I could have used -4 here, or I could have used a 5 here. But when I put a different number here, all of this starts to look different. But in the end, regardless of what number you put here, we will all end up with these solutions. And then just another reminder, 3 answers. This 3 is telling my end behaviors. And let's try the last one. So find all of the zeros. So first, they don't give me any clues, so I look for a GCF. There is not one. I would try to factor it. Maybe at this point you're starting to realize that wouldn't factor. But here I can factor out an x squared, and then I'm left with 3x minus 8. And when I go for my, twinsy parentheses, that will not work. There's nothing I can GCF out of here to make 3x minus 8. So this is not factorable. So let's come up with our possible solutions. So factors of 5, very few. Factors of 3, also very few. And now here come my possible solutions. And remember, this is the numerator and this is the denominator, so 1 over 1, 5 over 1. Now use 3 as the denominator, so 1 over 3, 5 over 3, and there's a positive and negative of all of these. So again, 4 numbers look like they're written, but there's actually 8 numbers there. So what's going to work? Let's go to our graphing calculator, go to your y equals button, type in your equation, so 3x cubed minus 8x squared plus 8x minus 5. And now I'm going to go to my table. Make sure you have used subtraction buttons, not the negative button. So second graph to go to the table. And now I'm going to type in, well, 1's already typed in, that didn't work. Negative 1's already typed in, that doesn't work. So scrolling on down, 5 does not work. Negative 5 does not work. 1/3. So I'm just going to do 1 divided by 3. That's my 1/3. That doesn't work, so hopefully 5 divided by 3 works. That's 5 divided by 3. There's my 5/3. And just a reminder, in my class, we did talk about that if you see an E, that is 0. So this is 0. So 5/3 is going to work. And how do you deal with the fraction? It's very simple. So just put 5/3 there. Take your numbers, 3, -8, 8, and -5. My full countdown's there. I will get 0 at the end. Maybe to help you see some of this, I'll bring this 3 down and just show you the factors or the multiplying on the side. So when you do 5/3 times 3, right? Because this 3 is there, so 3 times 5/3, you just get 15 over 3, which is just 5. So that's 5. Add these up. Now I get -3, and now I'm going to take 5/3 times a -3, which makes it -15 over 3, which gives me -5. And then I'm going to multiply again here. I get a +3, and we already did that. 5/3 times a +3 is just 15. Sorry, you can't see that, over 3, which is 5. And then sure enough, when I add them up, I get 0. So here is my remainder, here is my constant, here is my x, here is my x squared. And I'm going to try to factor this. One thing I notice is there's a lot of 3's here, so I'm going to go ahead and GCF this 3 out to make it a little bit easier to work with. And now I'm going to try to factor this. So I need factors of 1x squared that make -1x, and this is not factorable. So we're going to have to go back to our quadratic formula, and I'm going to be using this for my quadratic formula, so that's going to make a be 1, b as -1, and c as 1. So here we go. X equals opposite of b, plus or minus. I'm going to take this b and square it, minus 4 times a times c. And then I'm going to take all of this and divide it by 2 times a. Sorry, you can't see that. And now I'm going to use my calculator and get this check mark down to a single number. So turning on my calculator on the main screen, I'll do -1 squared. I'm just typing in what's in the check mark, what's in the radical, minus 4 times a times c. And I get a -3 in there. And what I do need for you to do is acknowledge the fact that you can't take the square root of a negative number, that it is imaginary. So I'll put an I there. The 3 is stuck in there, over 2. And then I can't do anything with 3. It's not perfect. There are no factors that are perfect, and I cannot do that triangle. So this is it. So what would I look for an answer? So what I'll do is, here are my zeros, and here are the factors that got me there. So 1, 0 is this crazy imaginary number. So 1 plus or minus I squared of 3 over 2, and that what got me there, you can either put 3x squared minus 3x plus 1. I'll put this in there, just the x squared minus x plus 1. And so I wrote that there. Here are 2 answers, one for the plus, one for the minus. And I'm supposed to have 3 answers, so my third answer is the 5/3. And although it's not ideal, I'm just going to keep this up and just make it a very simple factor of x minus 5/3. It's not the way it really is, but it will work for what we're doing. Okay? And that is it. So now what you're going to do is you're going to be grabbing your page. Yours is pink, and you've got problems to do. So the first 6 are you doing this whole rational root theorem. There's a spot for you to write your zeros and your factors. Sorry, folks, it did get a little cut off there when it went through the copier. And then you're going to get to the back, 2 more, what these notes just went over. And then problem 9 and 10 are just back to factoring. So you make sure it's in standard form, so move your 12 over. Make sure they're all set equal to 0, and then you just factor that we've been factoring. And the answer key will be posted in Schoology in the Chapter 4 folder. This is out of the packet technically, but there wasn't a lot of room, so I made it a separate page. And for my class, if you are with Mrs. Slauson, this will be titled Homework Number 6. And so you can go into your Chapter 4 Schoology folder and check out the answers. And that's it. I will see you next week.